All the so-called greatness of Russia is not based on its culture, not on science, and not even on the grandfathers who fought 80 years ago. The greatness of Russia depends on the black sludge that serfs extract for their masters in the Kremlin. If there is a lot of oil and the price is good, the level of greatness starts to hit the sick head and demands a bipolar world and the capture of unruly neighbors.
So I'll just start ECFI.
When the price of the black sludge is low, all of Great Russia immediately lines up for frozen chicken legs. But now, unfortunately for the world, the oil market allows Moscow to mass-produce missiles and hire meat orcs for its insane war of conquest.
I want some duty-free.
But all this horror might not have happened if Moscow did not control the main oil and gas regions of Russia, the Yamalo-Nenets and Khanty-Mansi autonomous okrugs. 45% of all Russian oil and 90% of all gas are extracted there.
Residents can touch the main mineral resource of our region. A new interactive exhibit has appeared in the Museum of Geology, Oil and Gas. The oil aquarium is made of a particularly durable material. The side walls of the tank have built-in oil-resistant gloves. There are 2 pairs, so the immersion process can be shared with family or friends.
El Dorado and the Golden Klondikes are nervously smoking on the sidelines. The entire pseudo-empire relies on these 2 northern regions. If they secede, the Russian Reich will collapse instantly.
If your son has grown up, buy him a computer. He's like a fool.
At El Dorado, only useful gifts.
The question of the independence of Khanty-Mansi and Yamal has been on the table for a long time. In 1993, the Northerners were planning to proclaim the Siberian Oil Republic. It was supposed to include all the oil-producing regions of Siberia and the Urals. The logic is simple. Why feed Moscow if you can build Dubai at home? The amount of resources per a small population, only 2 million people, would make every citizen of the Siberian state a millionaire at birth.
We don't count money. Yes, we certainly and definitely pump oil.
But now, the local residents are the poorest in these, districts. All the region's profits go to Moscow, and the high salaries are received by the incoming shift workers. And these high salaries do not stay in the region. After working, the shift workers take the money to other regions. This celebration of life passes by the local population. Public sector workers, utility workers, and pensioners are collecting teeth on shelves, while the indigenous population, the Mansi, Khanty, and Nenets, are simply drinking themselves into oblivion.
Yamal traffic inspectors identified 6 drunk drivers in the past day, as well as 7 without licenses. A 29-year-old man was driving a Gazelle in Noyabursk. The traffic inspectors immediately realized he had been drinking.
Due to the inflated salaries of newcomers in the districts, the prices for essential goods and services are inflated, much higher than in other Russian regions. Although the salaries of public sector workers, or those who haven't managed to latch on to the gas pipeline, are very low. A teacher in Yamal earns the same as a teacher in Krasnodar, but they can afford much less.
What the heck on earth, seriously?
The Khanty, Mansi, and Nenets are on the verge of extinction. Their traditional activities, reindeer herding and fishing, are practically not supported by the state. And oil and gas extraction destroys the natural environment, further worsening the lives of indigenous peoples.
Reindeer herding has declined, the elders have died out, and there's no one left to do it. In our village alone, there used to be 16,000 reindeer. In 5 or 6 villages, if you multiply to see how much that would be. And all of this mass disappeared over the course of 25 years.
As a result, a seemingly wealthy region is populated by poor people. High housing prices make mortgages unaffordable. In small settlements and northern villages, there is no health care, education, or roads. The indigenous population and public sector workers live in poverty because high prices eat up their salaries. And due to the rotational work system, the local population cannot find permanent employment with decent pay Millions of rotational workers literally drain money from the north. This has led to an economic paradox. Despite the high revenues from oil and gas, the regions themselves do not develop, because the newcomers have no incentive to invest money and effort into improving this land. They are here temporarily, money in their pocket, and off to Sochi.
All roads lead to the sea.
Moscow treats the northern regions like a true colonizer or plantation owner, literally stealing resources from the locals, and when everything is extracted, they will abandon the devastated lands and the alcohol-ridden population to the mercy of wolves and polar bears. As soon as the gas and oil run out, the cities of Yamal and Khanty-Mansi will become deserted and turn into settings for the game Stalker, because the colonizers absolutely do not think about the future of the region and do not invest in alternative industries.
Come on, just don't be too scared. And be careful, careful. It's probably dark here. This is our main entrance.
The dying Yamal, Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug.
In 2020, 544,000 population. In 2023, 512,000 population.
In 3 years, 32,000 residents disappear, 11,000 to each year.
And we live in such shacks. It's just upsetting because of this. Here I am, a veteran of Yamal. This is what I've earned sitting here.
In such a situation, the question of independence was a matter of time. The local residents asked a reasonable question. Why should they give 80% of their income to Moscow and then beg for some crumbs back?
A two-room apartment in Novi Urengoy with an area of 48 square meters costs almost 3 million rubles. Housing in a brick building in Salikod will cost over 4 million. Not everyone manages to earn such money, so everyone finds a way to cope as best they can. Northerners even adapt metal tanks as homes.
In 1993, the authorities of Tyumen, the Khanty-Mansi Autonomous Okrug, and the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug began demanding financial autonomy, or a separate tax regime. But the Kremlin didn't even want to hear about it, because in that case, there wouldn't be enough money in the Kremlin even to replace the wallpaper.
Colonialism today is not in Africa, where all states are independent.
Colonialism today is in Russia, in Siberia.
Moscow's deafness further convinced the Northerners that the colonizers needed to be sent beyond the horizon. In 1993, the head of the Surgut administration, Alexander Sidorov, proposed the idea of creating a Siberian oil republic.
Siberia is a land of free people, those who did not want to be in the bondage of serfdom.
This is precisely what Siberian identity is connected to.
This spirit of perhaps descent and freedom has always been present in Siberia.
People have always talked about Siberia. There in Russia, there in your Russia.
Russia has lied, but we are here, in Siberia.
As we know, the Moscow regime is based on 3 pillars: secret police, informers, and collaborators. The Kremlin quickly engaged all of this and crushed the idea of independence for its main Klondike at the root. Unfortunately, the parasite clung to the body of its victim. And when the diminutive geostrategist came to power, the regions were stripped of the last remnants of freedom. In 2004, gubernatorial elections were abolished, and now Moscow directly appoints its proxies, whose task is to control the extraction of resources and silence the locals. The federal center strictly ensures that the regions cannot develop their own economy.
People, interrupting each other, complain about the officials, in the hope that someone will learn about what is really happening in the Nyagan favelas.
They filmed me on television there, and I told it like it is, but they quickly edited everything out on our TV and said that I was so happy. I actually said that they just abandoned us and are driving us into debt traps.
What should the locals do, who now don't even have the right to choose? Silently wait until their home turns into Chernobyl? Or try to save their home by force? The local population has experience in fighting with Moscow. In 1931-1934, the Khanty and Nenets led armed resistance against the Soviet regime. For 3 years, they resisted the entire USSR. This went down in history as the Kazim Rebellion.
The uprising of the Khanty and Nenets in the 1930s
was called the Kazim Revolt. Until recently, this event was preferred to be kept quiet.
Moscow is a marauder that destroys the local population and leaves scorched earth behind. The Northerners need to reclaim their home before it's too late, or else they will be left on frozen ground with rusty pipes and towers sticking out.
The Khanty-Mansi Autonomous Okrug is the richest oil region in Russia, the very storehouses of the motherland, from which more than half of the country's oil is extracted annually. But in this region, there are still entire neighborhoods that resemble slums more than residential areas. These are the so-called wagon towns, where thousands of people live.
Lena, by the way, here. Come on, please ride.
This wagon town, there is only one playground. Few remember when it was installed, but children rarely come here.
The Siberian Oil and Gas Republic should become independent because it benefits its people. Only the locals will invest money and effort into developing their country. If all the income from oil and gas remains in the regions, it will be a state with the wealthiest population on the planet. Why be a colony of a pseudo-empire when you can become the Northern Emirates, which, if desired, can rent Moscow for the weekend and still have change left for Tver?
The old man is standing in front of me, fiddling with his pennies. I say, big old man, get the fuck out. I just give the money for him and that's it. I say, take it and get the fuck out.
And most importantly, if the Kremlin is disconnected from the oil and gas strip, the most terrible war of the 21st century will end, and new wars, which Moscow dreams of in fits of grandeur, will not begin. And the 1.5 meter oil addict will finally go to the Hague rehab.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.